Hey friends, Jason here, the host of the Speak with People podcast. Before we hop into this episode of the Lead with People, Not At Them series, I want to ask you a question. Are you ready to speak like a leader? So many of us aren't ready to answer that because we don't think we have the confidence. We're too fearful, or we just aren't given the opportunities to speak in public. And maybe if we do, we don't understand how to put our thoughts together in a clear way, and then all the nerves attack us, the beads of sweat and the ums, and our stomach turns over. It's time to end all of that. Speak with People is introducing a brand new course called Speak Like a Leader. This is for the everyday leader to speak with confidence, clarity, and in a captivating way. You are going to be absolutely ready when your boss says, hey, can you give an update on the project you've been working on in front of the team? You're going to stand up with confidence. You're going to be clear, and you're going to captivate that room. You're going to close more sales. You're going to be able to communicate more clearly. You're going to be able to deepen your relationships because you're going to speak like a leader. This includes 9 different modules, all of the training videos that you can watch on your own, all of the different worksheets, and then additional worksheets. It also includes 2 private coaching sessions with me. Go to speakwithpeople.com/speaklikealeader and get your course today. And now for this episode of the Lead with People, Not At Them series. Well, welcome to the Speak with People podcast. My name is Jason Raitz. I'll be your host today. Well, we believe that healthy communication is oxygen for your relationships and your leadership. So whether you communicate one-on-one, to a team, from a stage, or from behind a screen, I hope that our time today will inspire you, to challenge you to breathe life into your world with your communication. Before I head into today's interview, which is just going to be great, let me ask you a question. How do you grow as a communicator? Do you have resources or another leader in your life who are pushing you to continue to grow as a communicator? Well, if not, Speak with People offers a great coaching package. It's called The Pathway. It's an 8-step guide to becoming a confident, clear, and captivating communicator. And so you can do that one of 2 ways. One, you can just purchase our course and walk through the course, or you can work with me as your coach and we'll go through that coaching. Just go to speakwithpeople.com/coaching. Okay, well, I am so excited to hop into this podcast interview today. We continue our series, Lead with People, Not At Them. We have a great conversation with a leader who has been through so many different experiences in his leadership. There's so many times we got to communicate hard decisions. And how do you communicate a hard decision? Does it wreck you? Do you spend time thinking about it? Who do you pull around first to tell? I mean, there's just so many questions. Well, today I interview Morty Hodge. He's the CEO of Atlanta Compressor. And together we're going to discover some secrets to effectively sharing the impactful choices that resonate with your team and to communicate in healthy ways. Not only is Morty just an incredible business leader, he's a longtime friend who he and I went to high school together. So it is just an absolute blast to have him on the podcast. Morty, welcome to the Speak with People podcast.
Jason, thanks for having me. I love what you're doing. I love the podcast. And I was just so happy to reconnect with you after a lot of years. And like you said earlier, we could talk for hours trying to catch up. And I enjoy being around you.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, it was great back in January. We're both in Orlando at a podcasting conference. And I look across the way and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's Morty Hodge. And so it was great connecting then. So it was wonderful. Well, for our listeners, could you give us just a little bit more of your story, who you are, what you do, all of that good kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I'm the CEO of Atlanta Compressor. We started in 2010, and we sell and service industrial equipment. Most of our customer base is manufacturing or other industrial applications. And we focused on growing the business and scaling it, but most importantly, developing and maintaining that culture, which could be a bit tricky when you're trying to scale a business and start to working with remote people, which nowadays, since COVID, a lot of people have gotten used to working remote and managing remote teams. But as we started to scale, that was all new to us, and we didn't have a whole lot of resources. So we made a lot of awesome mistakes along the way that we learned from. But we grew into Tennessee, then North Carolina, South Carolina, back home to Michigan, and upcoming we'll be heading down Jason's way to Florida.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's amazing that you've been able to add different cities and see it grow. I bet on a different podcast episode we can talk so much about maybe some of those business tactics. But I bet you've experienced your fair share of communicating hard decisions. Do you have anything that kind of comes to your top of mind where you went, oh, this was a difficult decision, and then I had to communicate it to my team? Would love to know if you have a story that pops like that or anything you learned from that moment.
Yeah, I think that the recurring, unfortunately, tough conversation we have as leaders is when we have to invite somebody to go find employment elsewhere. Maybe they don't fit the culture, or the performance isn't what we need, and that's always a tough conversation. But specifically coming out of COVID, I have another great failure of mine that I could have used Speak with People at the time. But coming out of COVID, as you know, a lot of things changed. The world changed. And we had to trim some of our sales staff uh, while increasing our service staff. So it's kind of an interesting situation. Nobody wanted to buy new equipment or have us in their facilities, but they needed us in order to keep going. So the service department was busy, but our sales team was very it was very scary for a period of time. So we had a new facility. We had just grown to Charlotte, North Carolina, and we had this amazing leader that really helped put us on the map there from day one. And we went there because of him. We had this incredible opportunity to hire a Hall of Famer in our industry. And him and I formed a great friendship and a partnership, and we expanded a Charlotte Compressor, or created Charlotte Compressor together. And once COVID hit, he was the president of that branch, and it quickly became obvious that we didn't need a president. We were dying on the vine, and really what we just needed was a handful of skeleton crew up there because it was a newer branch. And so we had an uncomfortable conversation. It was interesting because he was on the leadership team, and right after COVID hit, we had an emergency leadership meeting of, hey, what triggers can we put in place? What are our actions? What are our plan Bs? And during that meeting, he said, well, we got to throw the fattest guy overboard. And at first I thought he was talking about me. I was pretty offended. Just teasing. But what he was talking about was the most expensive person on staff, right? We need to look at those and see if we can, if that makes sense going into this crisis. And the rest of us looked around the room, and he had no idea that he was the highest paid person sitting at the table. I paid him more than I paid myself, which is not uncommon for business owners. We're the coaches of the team, and in Major League Baseball, the coaches are not the highest paid people on the team.
Right.
It's the rock stars and the core players. So we had to have a tough conversation, and it didn't go well. I got to be honest with you. There was a lot of emotions.
Yep.
And the key to, as you know, the key to successful, crucial conversations is transparency, being real clear, consistent, being a good listener, all of these things, and most importantly, come up from a center of empathy. And for me, as soon as the situation got emotional, I think I allowed myself to get emotional with it, and it just kind of spiraled from there. And I still look back at that time, and him and I are now friends. It ended well. We made it through COVID, and he chose to move on and do something else, which I understood. It was a situation, but he's got a great job, making way more money. He's where he belongs, and so it worked out really well for him. And it was just a tough decision I had to make, and then to go and communicate this to the other leaders and the staff was just as tough because people started to lose confidence. They were already on edge because of this new coronavirus and COVID. So they're worried about their personal health and their family's health, which was understandable. Now they're worried about their job, and now this key leader is out the door. And what does that mean for the future? And it really sent shockwaves through our company.
Oof.
And we learned a lot. We learned a lot of tough lessons through this situation. And I think in the end, we're better for it. And so is he, which is
Yep.
great.
Yep. Those are so difficult. It's sometimes we wish we could just learn from the TV shows we love. I think about watching Michael Scott on The Office, and how he communicates to his staff. Well, that's not real life. We can't learn that way. An executive I worked for years ago, he worked in the auto industry for 40 some years or something, and he had to have those conversations, he said, almost daily, because in plants, you know people are always shifting, and those conversations. And he gave me advice. He just said, don't be the leader who dances around for a while. Just cut right to it, speak truth, and exactly what you said, with empathy, and just have that. Emotions are going to come, all of the different kind of stuff, but having those hard conversations is so difficult at times. It's so good to remember those keys, which are just, I mean, it's just crucial. Is there anything?
One of the things,
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm sorry. One of the things I learned that I should have done is to practice it, to write it out, be better prepared going into that conversation, even writing it out,
Yes.
practicing it. I wish I would have done all those things going into that meeting, because I think not being prepared and just kind of winging it
Yep.
was my ultimate downfall.
Yep. Oh, that's gold. That's gold. I learned that later in life with leading staff. And now as I coach leaders, as we talk about hard conversations or performance evaluations, I always say, type it all out, because when you type it out, you're gonna be a little more edgier because you're typing it. Type it out, then speak it out. And then you can go, okay, do I really want to say that? And then you can make edits and then stick to it, because you might get into the meeting, the emotions are coming, and then you cut off the last 10%, and that's where the truth is, or the things that you need to share. I mean, Morty, that's just great, great advice. Are there any other crucial elements that you found helpful, especially when you've got to communicate, those tough things? I mean, you talked about empathy, you talked about, communicating that well and writing it out. Just wondering if there's anything else that comes to mind.
Words matter. So
Yeah.
the words you use,
Yep.
uh, they matter, and you have to be careful about how you present it, it's not a spin, right? You have to come from a center of caring. You have to be authentic, and you have to just be honest with them and make it short and sweet. And
Yeah.
those are some things that nowadays I do, along with, like you said, writing out crucial conversations and just putting the effort into preparing for that conversation.
Mhm.
Think
Yeah.
about what the different responses this person how they could react to this news, and having a plan B. If they react this way, what's my reaction going to be? And I'll tell you this, that, and it's not too often we have to, part ways with somebody. But nowadays, when that happens, I usually get a hug or a handshake,
Mm.
and we remain friends. And we have people that come back to our Christmas party that we have annually, which is epic, or is in our fantasy football league with us still, different things like that, which means a lot to me. It means a lot that we can, decide, hey, you're an awesome person, and you're going to be great somewhere. It's just not here,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that. It's me, not you.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And
Yeah.
and so that's how we look at it. And a lot of these lessons came from this crucial
Mm.
conversation that I blew
Yep.
back in 2020.
Yep. Why do you think so many leaders, we steer clear of the mantle of communicating the hard decisions, or like, we know it's got to be made, and then we literally come up with every excuse to push it off? What do you think fuels that?
I think it's a fear of confrontation. I
Mm.
really do. I think most
Yeah.
people are scared of the confrontation or how the person is going to react. Rightfully so,
Yeah.
right? I get that. It's not easy dealing with the confrontation, or somebody that's going to get upset at you. A
Yeah.
lot of folks take it personally. I was taught a great piece of advice from my director of operations, Greg Smith. He taught me that, hey, listen, if somebody's getting upset with you, it's your position. It's not Morty Hodge, right?
Oh,
It's the CEO of the company that they're voicing their opinion or upset about or just want you to listen. And it's
yeah.
not Morty Hodge. They might not necessarily know who I am and they're upset with me as a person. It's just
Yep.
the fact that I'm a leader.
Wow. Yeah. Boy, that again, that is so rich and helpful wisdom, especially where we've got to be able to do that. Like you said something, just kind of go off course here for a second. So you talked about your epic staff Christmas party. How important do you think those things are to the culture of a team? We all spend a lot of time reading and studying and trying to develop the best team culture. I love how you said epic. That just threw off I have to ask about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we everyone looks forward to this, and it's so simple. It's more about the people that
Mm,
you love and you enjoy working with, getting together with spouses we don't get to see all year, or sometimes it's our first time meeting them,
mhm.
and just enjoying each other's company. And then I dress as Santa and hand out bonuses, which is always hilarious. And we create these games. So we'll have different Nerf battles for prizes, and we'll
Yep.
have our sales manager, along with a couple of team members, they created a giant plinko board that they do air hockey pucks down to go into different prizes, and so it's
Oh,
just things like that.
yep.
We love games, and we create these games, and we have a lot of fun as a team, and play some music and have some decent food. It's not the greatest food, but like I said, it doesn't cost that much, and the team absolutely appreciates it 10 times more than I thought they would.
Yes.
And but we'll do things like this throughout the year too. We did a great scavenger hunt this past year. We created a scavenger hunt for them to jump in cars in teams of 3 or 4 and drive around town, just like we did in youth groups and different
Yep.
things. And as adults, you forget how fun that stuff is, and
Yep.
they had a blast. And we
Oh,
love we're lucky enough to love what we do, but more importantly, love who we work with.
mm.
And it's a culture that for us is just makes it a pure joy.
Oh, I love that. I mean, people take for granted how far just a little bit of hospitality goes. I mean, just a little bit of that thoughtfulness. I mean, just builds people up. Uh, Years ago, I worked on an MBA. I did not finish it, so I'm an MBA dropout. I don't know why I always put that caveat in. But one of the books I had to read, it's on my shelf close to me, is Primal Leadership by Daniel Goleman, where he talks about for years companies led out of fear and control. And I love what you're talking about because Daniel Goleman talks about we've got to lead and tap into their positive emotions because they'll be so much more productive. There'll be so much, there's be so much more team unity. And it sounds like, those are values for you guys. And so it's great to be able to hear that you take those extra steps. Do
Yeah,
you do anything
we
on the positive? Sorry, I interrupted you again. Anything on the positive end? So, like when you're handing out those bonuses, like it's probably a blast for you, but so often, we put some of the thought into the negative stuff. Do you put any work into those specific wording of, hey, good job this year, or when you're handing out, it doesn't have to be a bonus, but then even when you're giving encouragement on those things.
Yeah, so for each team member, I take the time to write a card.
Mm.
And so I write about the year, I write about what makes them amazing, and maybe a interaction them and I have had throughout the year that makes them special to me. And once again, you can't BS this stuff. Anything
Yeah.
like that has to be authentic and genuine, because any team member can see through somebody that's trying to fake it. And so it's once again, it's like you said, it's just putting in the thought and the
Yep.
time to do that. I genuinely mean it. I genuinely love our team members, and it's a joy to play a part with them in our team.
Yeah. If you have to announce something company wide, that's difficult. I mean, I guess you did that in the beginning with the beginning story, but if it's, you know, sales forecasting didn't come in, or, something like that, does it start with you? Does it work through your lead team? I'm just curious your process on how you've got to, you're communicating it, company wide. And one of the things I hear the most when I coach with leaders is, well, I work for this company and I never know what's going on. And so I'm always curious to ask, people who lead companies, everybody can't be in the know all the time, but there are steps to take, to be able to communicate, effectively. So I'm just curious, anything that you guys do to be able to do that.
Well, for us, it's ultimate transparency,
Mm,
probably too much transparency. The only thing we're not allowed to talk about is what each other make.
mm,
Other than that, salaries, we talk about everything. And because we have that transparent culture, it's all conversational. Hey, what happened? What are your ideas? It's very collaborative. I don't act like I have all the answers. I tell everybody, if I'm the smartest one in the room, we're all screwed. So we
yes.
need to hire
Yes.
we need to hire awesome people that can problem solve better than I can. And so that makes it easy when you have a leadership team of, they bring issues to me and they bring solutions to me.
Yeah.
And we know we have a problem before it happens. And I love fixing problems. Troubleshooting problems is my passion. I started off in this industry as a technician, and that
Mm,
was my favorite thing to do, was to troubleshoot electrical problems or control problems. And I realized that I've taken that and just put it in the business world because I
mm,
still love troubleshooting and finding problems. And I get so excited when we finally realize what the problem is.
mm.
Other people don't get excited until we implement the solution and
Yep.
it actually works.
Yeah.
I get excited to find out what the problem is because once a problem is properly defined, it's half solved. We're on the way to making good progress. And that makes me excited.
Wow. I mean, that's an incredible way to look at it. Cause you're right. We're so, geared towards, well, it's all going to work out once we have the solution, but just even recognizing the problem is, I mean, it's just so much of the battle. Yeah, that's powerful. I love that. So in your role, with your leadership team, are you able to spend much time communicating with one-on-one with employees, or are you in a place where you communicate through other direct reports? I'm curious how you kind of go about that.
Yeah, we'll do company-wide meetings where I address everybody. We start the morning off with a positive focus every morning. So
Mm,
we're all together every morning. We have a big screen TV with nice webcams at each location, and so we feel very connected to each other. And we'll have fun topics. This morning's topic was, "What's your favorite superhero and why?" And so we had all these different answers coming in, and then them telling us why. And we all think we're stand-up comedians, so it always ends up with we're trying to one up each other as the microphone's passed around the room, and
yep.
it just gets ridiculous, and we love it. That's how we love it. And so I'm addressing the team in that format every day, so I'm very visible. um, Everyone's able to talk to me as needed. But as far as dealing with them one-on-one in their day-to-day role, that's all done through leadership.
Yep.
We have an amazing leadership team. I have one-on-ones with them every week. They have one-on-ones with their direct reports every week. And that good communication and clear and concise meetings really lets everyone feel connected. It's For
Yes.
us, it's about clarity and alignment. I was
Yes.
taught clarity. If it was put into a mathematical equation, it would be clarity plus alignment equals confidence. And if
Mm,
you think about that deep down to the roots, it's so true that if you want to make your team confident in what they're doing, confident in the company, confident in their leader, what they need is clarity, and they
mm.
need to be aligned with their leader or aligned with the company. And once you get people to that point, it gets fun.
Wow. Wow. Clarity's power. I mean, it's amazing to me, especially after, I'm a Donald Miller nut. So reading Story Brand and some of his other, books along that line, so many companies, so many leaders, like we make ourselves the hero. No, our customer is the hero. We're the guide and, guiding them through. And so even that clarity for your people of this is why we exist. This is how we solve people's problems. I mean, that kind of stuff. Talk about the alignment thing for a second. What is there something that you guys do to make sure their alignment? Is this as simple as, clear job descriptions or just those one-on-one meetings?
Yeah, it does. It starts with the job posting when we bring somebody in. The
Mm,
job posting,
hmm
ultimate clarity, and then an offer letter, is the same thing, and then their job description is the same thing. And we call it Big Three, which is our accountability system. It's a public accountability system where everyone's given three main metrics that they're responsible for, including myself. And you report on that. You self-report on it weekly, so it's not Big Brother watching you.
Mm,
You tell us how you're doing, and they're not held to that standard until they invite us to hold them accountable.
mm.
So once they're trained up, and once that they are comfortable with that metric and that level, then they invite us to hold them accountable. So, and the truth is, we don't manage them. We manage the system. We manage the
Right,
process.
right.
And as long as you have that clarity of what everyone's supposed to be doing, it makes it easy.
Wow. So, this podcast episode is in a series that we've called "Lead with People, Not at Them." So, our premise at Speak with People is healthy communication really does breathe life into people, like our lungs need oxygen, and so it translates from like you said earlier, words really do matter. I mean, how the words that we pick and choose. But I think on the leadership side, we've all had leaders that when you think of the with versus at, the at is a controlling, forceful lead out of fear. Sounds like somewhere you had a leader that really modeled healthy, authentic leadership to you. I'm curious if somebody, if you would share with us. I didn't ask this question on the content doc, but as I'm listening to you, I'm like, okay, someone modeled this, and Morty's learned it along the way. Just curious if there was someone like that for you.
Yeah, I focused on collecting mentors along the way
Wow.
because I was not born a CEO. I was just a guy. I had to grow into this position. And in order to do that, I had to find people that were smarter than me, that had done it before me, and that
Yep.
could help me shortcut to get there faster. I'll throw out one name. His name is Brett Gilliland.
Hmm.
He runs a company called Elite Entrepreneurs. Probably one of my favorite people on earth,
Hmm.
mine and my wife's favorite people on earth. Such a kind man, a kind soul who understands how the playbook of the business. And he's taught me so many invaluable lessons being part of being friends with him and part of the community. And I would encourage any
Hmm.
entrepreneur to look into Brett and that program because it's it's life changing. His message is powerful, and he's been a great friend and a great mentor.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It's amazing. We try to do as much as we can on our own, and then we hit a wall and we're like, why aren't we going, further? And then it finally dawns on us, yes, we've got to find somebody like this. And I'll find him and, link that website in the show notes, so people can, people can have that. That's powerful. I mean, that's just, absolutely incredible. In your company culture, is it a value then? I mean, you're spending time pouring into the people, below you. How are you multiplying leaders? How are you,
Mhm.
you recognizing that process to go, okay, boy, that person, they've got some leadership gifting. We've got to pour into them, and just let them, rise.
Yeah, I have the firm belief that anyone can be a leader.
Mm,
It's just because it doesn't matter on your personality or what type of person you are. There's examples of successful leaders that's every type of personality, introverts, extroverts. It doesn't matter.
yeah.
It's just a matter of in your business, do you have some people take longer than others to develop into those leaders that we need? And it turns into, do we have the time and the money and the resources to invest X amount of time in a person?
Yep.
And some we can and some we can't. And that's just
Right.
the reality of it. But I believe everyone can do it if they have the heart for it. I believe in servant leadership, and that's where it has to come from, that center of caring. We have a, we have a principle that we were taught, which is 70% of leadership development is in doing the work. So we'll do strategic planning, quarterly priorities, Some business leaders call them rocks,
Mm.
where we break down smart tasks. And then we have future leaders start to work on these problems or these
Yep.
projects. And so 70% of their development is in doing the work. Then about 20% of the development of them is them finding mentors, whether it's their current leader inside our company, outside of our company. Could be 10% to 20%. And then the other 10 to 20% is investing in personal growth.
Mm.
Whether, our company, we believe it's one of our core values is we learn and grow every day. We invest in fun things like we have a library of physical books at every
Huh.
one of our branches. And then on top of that, we have a company Audible account where we have over 200 books. And
Huh.
we let team members pick the books they want to read. And most of them are self-help development type books, but we have some, fun reading books on there. There's a couple of Harry Potters. And
Yeah.
my philosophy is if we can get a blue collar mechanic or technician to start reading, I won. Right? We all win.
Absolutely.
The truth is we all win. So I don't care
Absolutely.
what they're reading. Just read and develop yourself, grow yourself, and that doing the work, strategic planning, helping solve problems, looking for mentors in and outside the company,
Mm.
and dedicating yourself to personal growth. That's the formula for developing a leader. I
Yep.
don't. I try not to be involved in meetings unless I have a future leader with me. That's really tough sometimes, especially in a smaller company. But I'll bring somebody with me or have them attend the meeting, and they're not a leader yet, but they're in training or they're being developed or they've expressed an interest.
Yeah.
And then we'll look for opportunities for them to step up and lead or solve issues.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, one of our at Speak with People, one of our beliefs is that we all have an encouragement tank, and I think most people assume each other's encouragement tank is higher than it really is, and probably most people's encouragement tank is pretty low. And you've just been someone over the years, even following on Facebook and then even running into you and talking. I mean, you just do such an exceptional job of filling people's encouragement tank. So I just want to, thank you for that. Like modeling that. I mean, so many people get so much discouragement. More of us need to be able to pour out that encouragement because it really does change lives. So I love that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, you've given us such great gold. I took so many notes here. I can't wait just to kind of go through this. Before I let you go, why don't we go through a couple rapid fire questions? Let our listeners kind of keep getting to know you. So, we talk a lot about speaking on this podcast. Do you have a favorite speaker? Just someone that you're like, oh, I love listening.
There's so many. But by far my favorite is Jensen Franklin, who's a pastor of Free Chapel in Gainesville, Georgia. He was my pastor. We still go there, not as frequent as we used to, but we were longtime members of that church. And listening to him speak, you can tell he is the Spirit is in him, and he is a pleasure to listen to.
I love that. Is there a podcast that you love for either development or, guilty pleasure that just kind of fills your cup?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, but it's Tim Ferriss's podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a little bit of a guilty pleasure. I like to listen to some of the far out ideas he has. He's just an interesting human, and but he has a lot of great business owners on there that have given me golden nuggets over the years.
Absolutely. Is there a book that you would recommend to every leader that you just said, boy, my goodness, if there's a book you got to read, put this one in your hands?
Yeah, one of the required readings we have in our company for future leaders or current leaders is Jim Collins' book, Good to Great.
Yep.
I think that's an easy one. That's a staple for business leaders. Even as great as it is, I still think it's underrated. It really is the playbook to being a great leader and being a great company.
Wow.
And we followed that book.
I love that. Last question. I'm throwing you for a loop on this one. Did you see, both growing up in Detroit, did you see Verlander and Cabrera both kind of tip their cap to each other the other day?
Oh, that was emotional. That was emotional.
Best.
You're talking about two titans
right?
of baseball and the respect they had for each other. You don't see that. You don't see that anymore.
No.
And what a pleasure that was.
Yeah. I cried like a baby. I'm like, this is it. This is just a powerful moment.
We went to a game in June. I took the team up there. We did a sales split, so we got to watch the Braves, which a lot of our teams from Atlanta play the Tigers, which some of our teams from Detroit. It was a great game. We got to see Miguel Cabrera hit a home run. And this is his final tour, right?
Yep.
To watch him hit a home run was same thing. It was emotional.
Yep. The Braves spring training facility is about 2 hours south of me. So I've not been to that one yet. They are on, they're first on the list come March of 2024. So just can't wait. But anyways, Morty, this has been such an incredible conversation. So appreciate your time. Is there somewhere we could send people online to find out more about you and what you do?
Best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. If you could put that in the show notes.
Yep.
I love connecting with other leaders. I love helping out any way I can. I really am passionate about it. So please reach out to me and I'm happy to help.
I would absolutely love it. Well, thank you again. Appreciate your time and thank you for pouring out some of this wisdom today.
Absolutely.
And thank you for joining the Speak with People podcast. We are so excited that every single week, more and more listeners are grabbing a hold of some of these communication principles. We so hope that they have been an inspiration, challenging, encouraging to you today. Before I let you go, I just want to ask, where do you turn to bounce ideas off of other leaders? Well, let me suggest we've got an incredible community of people developing in the Speak with People community Facebook group. Hundreds and hundreds of leaders who all are committed to be elevating the importance and practice of healthy communication in our lives. So just go to facebook.com/groups/speakwithpeople and be a part of this community. We encourage each other, challenge each other, and post different podcasts and YouTube so we can continue to grow our leadership and communication. Thanks again for being a part of the podcast. We just want to keep encouraging you to elevate the practice of healthy communication in your life and leadership. And my hope is that you will speak with people and not at them. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next week.